Hey, what's up guys? Thanks for stopping by the channel. So for this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Ball Engineer 2 Skindiver Heritage Edition. Now, if you frequent my channel often, you probably know that I've had a few ball watches on the channel. They are one of the few Swiss independent timepiece manufacturers that I find have really good quality and enjoy every time I get a new watch in to take a look at. Now, a few weeks back, I actually reviewed their Engineer 3 Marvelite Carrying Edition, which was hands down probably one of the best watches I've featured on the channel this year. And I've kind of kept the ball rolling when they actually lent in the Skindiver 2 Heritage Edition for me to look at right now. This watch is incredibly well built, and I really enjoy the colorway with the blue sunburst dial on this particular watch. Now, pricing on the Engineer Heritage 2 Skindivers come in just under 3,000 US dollars. But if you do look secondhand or on the gray market, you can typically find it closer to the $2,000 price range, which at that price point I think is an absolute steal for what you're getting. So let's quickly flip the camera around now, and you guys can actually see this watch up close for the review portion of the video. Alright, so now that we're in my studio, we can actually take a closer look at this Ball Engineer 2 Skindiver Heritage Edition. Now in my hand, one of my initial thoughts was that this shares some similar design language to like a Seiko 62 Moss reissue or like a Marine Master 300 or 200. Just the way that the case just arcs down with these beautiful lugs. And you also have a strong polished bevel that extends the length of the case here on the side. And even things like having no crown guards on this very nice oversized crown that's knurled extremely well. And even the way that the bracelet integration is kind of squared off to the head of the watch, very reminiscent of some Seiko divers in the Prospex range. Now, all that being said, a Ball definitely does have some of its own distinct DNA present in this watch, and we'll go through that over the course of this review. Maybe let's talk about the dimensions first. So I actually measure the case diameter here at 42.5 millimeters. And then if you flip the watch to the side here, the wingspan between my fingers here is at an expansive 53 millimeters. And that's further potentiated if you include the male end links of the bracelet. So it expands the lug to lug slightly more, closer to about 57 millimeters. But again, the case shape and the way it conforms to your wrist makes it very wearable. So don't be overly concerned about having such a long lug to lug dimension. Now the overall case height I measure at 15 millimeters. That's to the bottom of this very nicely engraved case back to the top of this very slightly domed sapphire crystal, which contains an inner AR application there to cut down on reflections. Now, that said, you can still get some strong reflections from my studio lights holding it at certain angles, but I think that's also because the dial is a sunray blue and you have a very bright blue glossy ceramic bezel insert here. So one of the hallmark features for Ball is the use of tritium tubes instead of superluminova. So all of the hour markers on the dial, as well as on the hand stack there, use self-activating radioluminescent tritium gas tubes. And that means that you don't need an external light source to charge them. They're going to glow continuously, and they have a half-life of about 12 years. And if that wasn't enough to help you with the low light legibility, Ball also uses a very nice ceramic bezel insert where all of the markings are fully lumed with Swiss superluminova that has a very nice cobalt blue glow. So I'll throw up some low light shots right now just so you guys can see how well this watch can read in the dark and give you good orientation. Now the orientation really is helped because the tritium gas tubes can glow different colors You can see that at the 12 o'clock position, you have like that orange tritium glow. And then even the handset is distinctly different from the remaining hour markers. Now, I really like some of the subtle details on this dial. You can also see how the rehaut to this dial actually has small cutouts to where the applied micro tritium gas tubes are inserted for each of the hour markers, and it gives you a little more depth and dimension. I also like that you do have a day and date complication at the 3 o'clock position, and you still have a very small truncated tritium gas tube there as well. Now you'll note that it does say chronometer and 300 meter water resistant near the 6 o'clock position here. So in case you were wondering, Ball utilizes ETA based chronometer grade movement, so that's the highest ETA movement on the market, but they designated the caliber RR1102-C, which is slightly modified because based off the ETA, they have their own rotor. They have some technology that helps make the watch resistant to shock up to 5,000 Gs. And this watch, the way they case up the movement, is also anti-magnetic to about 1,000 Gauss. Now, operating this movement via the crown is extremely easy to do because, again, it's oversized and very well gnarled. So if you unscrew the screw down crown here, in the neutral position, you can manually wind the ETA-based movement, which gives you about a 38-hour power reserve. In the intermediate position here, you can quickly cycle through the day and date of the month. And then if I do pull it all the way out, you can actually hack the movement, stop the seconds hand, and set this watch to any reference time that you want. Now in terms of finishing, you can see again the crown, very aggressive knurling, and that's also shown on the coin head style bezel here, which almost has like 2 rows of teeth, and you can see how the bezel is raised up over the mid case. So you can grip this bezel pretty much at any point over the watch. It's a 120 click unidirectional bezel, and it sounds like a machine gun going off. Oh, I love the satisfying feel of this bezel. It's a little bit tight, but not overly taut. No backplay, and the alignment for the bezel is spot on, which is very nice to see, unlike what you would typically find on the Seiko MM200. Now I want to talk about the bracelet quickly, but first I'll mention that the original Skindiver 2s, so not the Heritage Edition, did have a 500 meter water resistant rating instead of 300, which kind of is a moot point for me just test diving. But you'll find that there's no helium escape valve here. And then the other thing you'll find with the Skindiver 2s is that they used to use more of like a shark mesh style bracelet, which was 20 millimeters, non-tapering, but had very good articulation. With this current Heritage version, what you do get is more of a refined bracelet. It's more of a 3-link oyster style bracelet with polished center links. It does have a very nice taper, so it's about 22 millimeters at the head, tapering down to about 18 before you hit the clasp. You can see that there are full links and some half links here. And if you want to actually size the bracelet by removing links, it's a pin and tube system. So there's a small tube in the center link, and you're going to have to tap the pins out using a pin punch in order to adjust the length of the overall bracelet. Now when we get to the clasp, it's one of the minor letdowns I would say about this watch. I mean, it is secure with just a twin trigger release here, but it does feel fairly pressed out. There's only 3 levels of micro adjustment here. The swing arms are milled out nicely, and there is a dive extension, but even this is very thinly pressed out, which is kind of a disappointment, although it does keep everything nice and compact here. And I do want to mention on the original Skindiver 2s, the clasp did feel more robust. It was thicker steel, and even the dive extension was milled out. But one of the cool highlights for this watch is if you flip it over and look at the case back, very nice attention to detail. Check out the engraving of an actual Skindiver in the center of the case there. And you can see again, the case is screwed in to give you that 300 meter water resistance rating. Now here's a quick wrist shot of how the Skindiver 2 Heritage Edition looks on my 19 centimeter or 7.5 inch wrist. And again, if you look at the down the barrel shot here, you can see how those lugs turn down and just hug to my wrist very well. So even if you have a wrist that's smaller, I would say you probably want at least a 7-inch wrist though to wear this watch before the lugs kind of shoot over your wrist a little. But the taper on the bracelet's actually quite nice, and you can see there's a very nice low profile to the clasp there as well. So guys, that is my overview of the Skindiver 2 Heritage Edition from Ball. And taken together with some of the Ball technologies, the overall design, and build quality of this piece, I really do think it is fairly well priced in that $2,000 to $3,000 price range if you're looking for a nice Swiss-made diver. Now in terms of competition, I do think this plays in the same ballpark as, say, like a Breitling Super Ocean, which I'll just hold up my 42mm Breitling here and give you guys a side-by-side shot. It also might compete with, say, something like an Oris Aquis around the same price range here. Now again, with Ball, where I think it's going to best those watches is with overall legibility, because they do utilize those micro tritium gas tubes. And I also think it's an underrated brand. So if you're looking for something that's a little outside the norm, but you still get some Swiss-made heritage, I highly recommend you guys check these watches out from the Ball website. But guys, as always, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the description of this video below. I hope you guys can stay safe during this time, and as always, I'll catch you in the next video.